I'm Maggie. I'm the priest in charge at the Church of St.Stephen in the Fields at College in Bellevue. And it's called St.Stephen in the Fields because when it was built in 1858, there was nothing but open field all around it. It was the first building in this area west of Spadina. Obviously, it's now quite a different sort of neighborhood. It's highly urbanized, very built up, very dense. And although there's still a lot of local food being sold in the market, there's not a lot of food being produced in this neighborhood anymore.
Right.
This church had a community garden for a little while in the 80s, and then it got overgrown. Nobody kept it up. But when I started here, I've been involved with Occupy Gardens for a while. I was connected with Occupy from the time of the St. James camp occupation and got involved with the garden group, the Queen's Park Garden. And as soon as I was starting to look at coming here, I knew I wanted to have gardens here. And one of the first things that happened after I started here was Lee from Occupy Gardens got in touch about some seedlings in the Scadding Court greenhouse that couldn't fit into the Scadding Court plot. So we put them in early May. Some out front, some herbs and greens out front, and some tomatoes around there. This area, which is now our main garden area, was just a whole overgrown patch of weeds. And we were all standing and looking at it and thinking, wouldn't this make a fantastic community garden? So we set a work day. We got in topsoil. We got in seedlings from Scadding Court, from other places, some seeds from the Toronto Seed Library, which we have a branch of in the church. And it's growing well. It's growing well.
Okay. How long ago was it planted?
It was in May.
Okay.
It was in May. And we're now in early July, so it's been about a month and a bit. What we have here, we have heritage bush beans from the Seed Library.
By heritage, what do we mean?
They are varieties that are not mass-produced or commercially cultivated. These are soybeans, these 3 rows, which were donated by a gardening class at a high school, local high school. They had started the soybeans and didn't have room for them, so they donated them to us. These are more tomatoes back here.
Okay, tomato plants.
From the same class, most of these. There's a blue potato over here from the Seed Library, and a regular potato from Scadding Court. Some rhubarb, another tomato plant. This is kale, and this again came from the Occupy Gardens greenhouse. More tomatoes here. Some borage, some broccoli. It's having some trouble with cabbage worms.
Which one's the broccoli? Yeah.
Bulb with these fronds. The fronds are more for seasoning. The bulb you eat as a vegetable.
Oh, okay.
This is actually wild tobacco.
Tobacco?
Which is a sacred medicine plant.
This is native to here. This is an indigenous plant as well, correct?
It's not actually indigenous to this part of North America, I don't think, but it is used in traditional indigenous culture.
Wow.
And a friend gave it here to be cared for and then appropriately distributed for use in ceremonies. So this is the main plot, and then we have the big tomato bed over there, which is doing quite well. And we should have some tomatoes fairly soon. And then the herbs and greens at the front of the church, where it's shadier, so we have to grow more shade-tolerant plants there.
Now, how is this garden? It's just in a little, sort of like a little back alley sort of garden right here,
much,
eh?
Yeah.
You get a lot of sun here in this location?
Yes, this area gets a lot of sun. It's south-facing, and the wall also reflects sun and heat.
Inside. 1858, you say? That's when it was made.
Yeah, this area was mostly an
the suburbs like Scarborough, Etobicoke, North York. That was like not even a field yet.
They would have been entirely separate city if there was settlement there.
Like the city of Weston, for instance. I think even the annex was its own city at that point, right?
And here's our seed library branch.
Okay.
Turn on the light for you here as well.
For sure. All right. Toronto Seed Library. Toronto Seed Library sprung out of Occupy Gardens.
Yeah.
And they have seeds here that you won't find at Canadian Tire or Home Depot.
Yeah.
These are like...
Yeah, we've got... different kinds of bush beans, heritage sweet corn, garden sage, got some Renegade F1 spinach. This is
Where's the food? What's the goal? Where's the food go? What's the goal?
We have lots of programs at the church which involve feeding people. We have a free community breakfast every Saturday and every Sunday with 100 to 150 people every day. So, lots of people fed there. We have a Saturday night service in Alexandra Park where we have a potluck which is open to anybody in the park. So, a lot of the sort of transient kids in the park and skaters and other people will come to that. We're looking at starting a community kitchen and where people can cook together or learn to cook together. So we have lots of opportunities for using the food in the community. That's one of the advantages of having a community garden at a church, is churches tend to have a lot of meal programming going on.
Right.
So we have a lot of good opportunities to get food to people who need fresh food and don't have a lot of access to fresh vegetables normally.
So for use of a better phrase, it's a rather crude phrase, you kill two birds with one stone, in a sense.
I guess so.
Yeah, well, I mean,
we're feeding people anyway. This enables us to feed them better.
Right, because like the kind of food you get at like a lot of food drives and stuff, they're often not fresh.
Yeah.
And not...
well, it's stuff that can pack and ship and be stored for